Have you ever just stared at your bank account and felt your stomach completely drop, wondering where on earth all your hard-earned cash disappeared to? Well, trust me, you are definitely not alone in that. In today's Explainer, we're unpacking the fascinating psychology behind overspending, and more importantly, we're going to explore a surprisingly simple, totally game-changing solution called the two-account system. Let's dive right in.
Section 1. The Disappearing Money Mystery. Death by 1,000 Everyday Cuts. Okay, I want you to picture this. It's a completely random Tuesday night. You're just sitting on the couch, you open up your banking app to do a quick balance check, and suddenly you see that the number is shockingly lower than you expected. Like, way lower. You immediately have to ask yourself, wait, where did all my money go? And you know what's incredibly frustrating about this feeling is that you know for a fact you didn't buy anything crazy. You didn't suddenly splurge on a luxury watch. You didn't book some massive vacation. You didn't go on a wild shopping spree. You literally just bought normal, everyday stuff.
So you start scrolling through your recent transactions, right? And what do you see? $12 for lunch. $18 for that takeout you grabbed on the way home because you were too tired to cook. A $7 coffee. Oh, and a random $25 Amazon purchase that you honestly barely even remember making. It's not the big things. It's this endless series of highly relatable, incredibly small purchases that just quietly, slowly drain your account.
Now, if you're thinking, it's just a few bucks here and there, no big deal, get ready for this number. $3,400. According to data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average household spends over $3,400 per year on dining out alone. To put that into perspective, that breaks down to almost $10 a day, every single day, just completely flying under the radar. And the absolute craziest part of all this, most of us don't even realize we're doing it until the money's already gone.
So let's look at Section 2, the one account problem, why willpower isn't the answer.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that it totally exposes the massive myth of financial discipline. You see, most people just assume their spending problem is a lack of self-control. But actually, scratch that. The real problem is simply having one main bank account. When your paycheck, your rent money, and your grocery money all sit crammed together in the exact same place, it creates what's called the single bank account illusion. Your brain glances at a balance of, say, $2,000 and instantly thinks, awesome, I have $2,000 to spend. What it completely fails to do in that split second is automatically subtract the $1,200 you owe for rent or the $200 for utilities. We are basically tricked into feeling way richer than we actually are in that moment.
Which brings us to Section 3, the psychology of overspending, the trap of mental accounting.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that human beings, all of us, are inherently terrible at tracking a single large pool of money. Based on the work of behavioral economists like Nobel laureate Richard Thaler, we know that people really struggle to separate money mentally if it all just sits in one giant pile. Your brain just treats the whole thing like one big pool of fun spending money. Look, mental math is exhausting, and our brains love taking shortcuts. So relying on mental math to constantly separate your rent money from your coffee money inside one single account is quite literally a recipe for failure.
And honestly, that one pile problem is totally supercharged by something called frictionless spending. Think about it. Today, purchasing offers zero resistance. You tap a card, you double-click the side of your phone, you hit buy now on a website, and boom, it's done. When spending becomes this frictionless and all your cash is just sitting there in one big pool, your brain completely stops carefully evaluating those purchases. You literally just bypass critical thinking entirely.
Section 4. The two-account system, fixing the problem by design.
So here is the extremely simple, totally frictionless solution we've been building towards that entirely removes the temptation to overspend. You just split your finances into two separate checking accounts. First up, you have the bills account. This account has one strict, boring job, paying fixed expenses, rent, utilities, subscriptions. That's it. There is absolutely no debit card attached to this account, which means zero chance for impulse buying. Second, you have the spending account. Now, this is your guilt-free, flexible money. It's for groceries, dining out, random shopping trips. But because it's separated from your bills, it has a clear, hard limit. You no longer have to guess or do mental gymnastics to figure out how much is safe to spend.
Let's move to Section 5, running the numbers, how it works in practice. Let's actually run the numbers to see how this builds using a realistic scenario. Say you earned $3,000 a month. We start by simply listing out all those predictable fixed expenses. You've got $1,200 for rent, $200 for utilities, $150 for insurance, $100 for phone and internet, and let's say $50 for various streaming subscriptions. Add all that up, and it totals exactly $1,700. The very moment your paycheck arrives, that $1,700 is instantly calculated and locked away safely in the bills account. So look at what happens here. Out of your original $3,000, that $1,700 is completely spoken for. Done. Then maybe you put $400 to savings and $300 to investing. That leaves you with exactly $600 for your guilt-free spending slice. And this is where the true magic of the system kicks in. When you open your banking app while you're standing in line for a latte, your brain no longer sees that inflated $3,000. It only sees a highly realistic $600. It eliminates the exhausting mental math entirely. If your spending account says $120, well, that is your reality. Why does this work so incredibly well? Because it shifts the entire burden away from discipline. Think about it like this. Relying on willpower to not spend your rent money is exactly like keeping a giant bowl of your favorite candy sitting right on your desk. Eventually, you're going to cave and eat it. But relying on environmental design, that means taking that candy bowl and hiding it in a cupboard clear across the room. You'll naturally just eat way less of it. By separating your bills into an account you literally can't touch with a debit card, you are effectively moving the financial candy bowl out of reach. Environmental design is just infinitely more reliable than sheer exhausting discipline. And here is the absolute best part, the really surprising benefit. Financial stress practically vanishes. Think about that for a second. When the first of the month rolls around and rent comes due, you don't panic. When that annoying auto insurance payment hits, it doesn't feel like some sort of surprise attack on your wallet. The money was already sitting there just waiting to do its job. This system grants you something very, very rare in the world of personal finance: total control and immense peace of mind. Okay, final section, section 6, the 10-minute setup, taking control today. Look, I promise you don't need any confusing budgeting apps, you don't need gigantic spreadsheets, and you definitely don't need to meticulously track every single latte you buy. You can literally build this entire system in about 10 minutes. Step 1, open a second checking account. Most banks will let you do this online right now instantly. Step 2, go into your app and rename those accounts to bills and spending so their purpose is crystal clear every time you log in. Step 3, take 5 minutes to calculate your fixed monthly expenses. And finally, step 4, set up an automatic transfer on payday so the exact bill amount moves over to the bills account completely automatically. Everything else stays right there in spending. Because at the end of the day, the very best financial systems are always the simplest ones. It's all about working with your human psychology instead of constantly fighting against it. So I want to leave you with this one provocative question. Will you keep relying on exhausting willpower, or is it finally time to design your environment for success? Take 10 minutes today, set up your 2 accounts, and take your financial control back for good. Thanks so much for joining me on this Explainers, and as always, keep learning.